Now, this person is not doing this assignment. You can tell this person is not doing this assignment, one, because it looks completely different than what we've talked about, and two, because you can look at their color and realize that they actually don't have a lot of variation. She definitely wants to show me that she can draw with a brush, but this is a brush assignment. She wants to show me that she can really capture the texture of hair while painting, and that is impressive, but also not what we're doing in this assignment, because this isn't a replicate texture with a brush assignment. Basically, what she's doing is the equivalent of turning your Spanish homework into your math teacher. And you can conjugate those verbs all you want, but your math teacher don't care if you didn't do the right equations. Go back to what are we trying to do in this assignment? What we are trying to do in this assignment is use color to create optical color mixtures that convey a sense of volume. And if I squint at this one, look how flat that face is, because she doesn't really have much variation. The color here and the color here and the color here, very different places on the face in terms of what's coming forward and what's receding, are all the same color. She has not nearly the same variation that we saw in the other ones. She does an admirable job of drawing with the brush, but this isn't a shape assignment. This is a color assignment, and we're deliberately keeping it low resolution so that you're focused on the color itself, which is part of the problem. This person just has so many problems. But one of the big ones is that they're trying to show me shapes, when really what we need to do is use the values in this drawing or colors in your painting to create the sense of volume. But you can see that it doesn't when we have these big jumps between blank whites and darker areas. Sometimes people go to art school because they want to be creative and do interesting things. And then they get into my class and I tell them, hey, guess what? Squares. Yeah, lots of straight lines. And you're like, dude, I want to do something fun and creative. And okay, but this assignment is art broccoli. It's good for you. Just eat it, and we'll get to dessert later in the semester. Just get through it. Do this assignment. Almost every time I have a student who tries to do something really creative with this one, it just winds up being more work than it's worth. The person over here on the right was somebody who had painting experience, and she wanted to bring in a picture of her with her little brother snuggled up. And what she decided to do, and I had let her, was to do a sort of brushy, abstract version of her and her brother, and then get that skinny little architect's tape and draw out the grid, and then she was going to have the tiles kind of floating on this impressionistic thing. But it took her so long to do that tape that frankly she didn't do a very good job with the color on top of her underpainting. And so we get these big, flat, unmodulated, but also kind of generic. She's using the same green or the same brown in the skin tone kind of everywhere. And it flattens out in a way that doesn't pass the squint test that we've been doing. And then the distraction of all those lines makes it even harder for us to really kind of read the face in there. So it winds up doing the opposite of what she was hoping for. Plus it took her so long that she didn't really finish. The person over here on the left really didn't like the idea that the background was going to be the same shapes as his face. And he said, well, could I do like rectangles in one and squares in the other? And I said, yeah, okay, that'd be fine. Because again, it's more about the color mixing than it is the particular shapes. So he decided that what he was going to do is use squares in one part and rectangles in the other part so that it would be really easy to read and you'd definitely be able to tell what was his face. Yeah, that didn't work. Probably it would have worked just fine if he'd switched it and used the grid in the face and rectangles in the background. But yeah, that didn't so much work. Keep it boring. Don't try to dazzle me with your brushwork. do try to dazzle me with your color mixtures. How can you create a combination of colors that really conveys the difference between this little part of the cheek that's coming towards me and therefore is warmer than this little part of the cheek that's moving away from me? How can you create a sense of the collapse inside of a eye socket while still having the devastatingly high cheekbones that all you young and healthy people still have come forward? How can I understand the difference between the color on the neck and how much grayer and softer it might be versus the warmer colors that you have? Choose a photograph that's not going to mess you up. Don't choose one where you have sunglasses on, because that black is just going to turn into a big dead nothing and then you look like you have zombie eyes. Do pay attention to how the light is falling across the form and communicates the volume to us. And don't be afraid to deviate from what you think the local color should be. Yes, your teeth are white because you are just the paragon of modern dentistry. But sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's yellow. It really depends on what the light is doing, because we can look at really extreme color, and when we see it in context, we'll know all of those colors are flesh tones. So the orange that he has on his nose helps that nose to come forward. The more olive color gives a sense of the recession on the softer parts that are moving away from the viewer. We get a purple mauvey thing as we're moving away from the light source across the forehead. And so all of these really extreme colors that we might not immediately think of as flesh tone, in context with optical color mixing, are going to make perfect sense, and our eye is going to be able to blend them together.